Hi, I'm Tatum and today I am in front of the best audience in the whole world. Because we are at Shine Cancer Support's Connect conference. It has been an incredible day with incredible people, and we are launching new research that basically we go through an experience that is not really normal for our age group. And we sometimes wonder, are we alone with this? Am I the only one handling like this? Is everyone else doing this better than me? Am I normal? And that's what this research really can begin to answer. So we're going to dive into those topics today with the best panel. We've got Fatima, we've got Kaleb, we've got Kerry, we've got Louis, and we've got Ceinwen. Let's get to it. So, Fatima, tell me, what was going on in your life when you were first diagnosed?
Well, I was diagnosed last year, January, at the age of 33. I am a mother of three, and at that time my children were 12, 9, and 2 years old. And strong, independent woman, working, managing a business alongside my wonderful husband, and just trying to really get on with life, you know, adulting, trying to figure out how to, manage a mortgage and, drain the heaters. I still don't know how to do that.
Adulting is hard.
It's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And I was then diagnosed with grade 3 breast cancer, ER positive, and then my world turned upside down. I suddenly became very dependent, and I lost a lot of myself and my identity, going through chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and currently still going through hormone therapy. So
yeah. I mean, that's so much, like we were just saying, like life is already so full. Mm-hmm. We're already packed to the limit of what we can handle, and then radiators need to be drained.
Yes.
And then you get this diagnosis. And like, how were you beginning to like even comprehend that this had come into your life?
I was very shocked because I was told it was a cyst 3 times. You're young, you're far too young. Mm-hmm. Nah, it's not cancer, don't worry. And it was a teeny tiny lump. I was very aware of breast cancer just with growing up, but I was always aware that it's older women and not younger women, and that pea-sized lump, whereas I had a much smaller lump, and I was just lost. I was like, being told 3 times by 3 clinicians that it's a cyst, it's not cancer.
Yeah, and when you said that, I could feel the murmur going through the room of other people having a similar experience of, you're too young, we don't think it could be anything like that. Yeah. And
then, don't worry, you'll be fine. A bit of radiotherapy, you'll be okay. A bit of radiotherapy? It's not a bit of radiotherapy, it's actually really intense. And then learning that actually I have to have chemotherapy as well, because the thing with cancer is once they actually take the tumor out or they look into the tumor, the histology completely changes. And I found out that it was not grade 2, it was grade 3, and it was really aggressive. And well done for catching it in time. So that's it.
Yeah, and what I can really hear in there is like there's layers, there's the practicalities, but also you think once you get the diagnosis, then you're going to know things.
Yeah.
But then after the surgery, things can just change again.
Yep, exactly.
And so one of the things that came up in the research was like, really high levels of anxiety.
Yeah.
I think those numbers earlier were like 85% out of the audience. Does anyone want to just do a quick wave if you've had some anxiety? Oh yeah, I'd say that's 85% at least. So where were you with your anxiety, and how did that play into other parts of your life?
Anxiety has played a huge role in my life pre-cancer. So I had a very difficult year pre-cancer, a very difficult situation at home, a personal bereavement in the family, and it was a really hard year to navigate as it was. And it was like, well, here you go, here's a bit of cancer as well, you know, because you're already a bit, you know, fucked up, so here, have some cancer and you'll be fine. And I was just like, oh my gosh, and it went through the roof. And with anxiety comes all sorts, uncertainty, the fear of reoccurrence. Am I having too much treatment? Am I having too little treatment? Am I having the right treatment? Should I have had a full-blown mastectomy? Should I have just got rid of both of the boobs? Like, what should I have done? Or what did I do to give myself cancer? And then you're managing all the emotions around you, of your loved ones, your friends, the people that you think were there for you, or had your back. You truly find out. When it's a shit situation, you truly find out who's really there for you. And I'm sure so many of you can understand that. Don't worry, if you need anything. Are you going to hold my hand while I try and, you know, like, when I'm vomiting in the toilet? What are you going to do? Like, you know, it's not if you need anything. You truly do find out. And it's so many emotions which kind of accumulate with the anxiety.
Yeah, and things like anxiety then can feed into other things that are then uncertain. So you've got the big uncertainty of, you know, was the treatment, did I do the right, did I do the right treatments, what's going on? But also then side effects. So in terms of fatigue, how have you been left?
Fatigue has been, actually Shine, I did the Shine Shake Up Max weekend away, which is fantastic. A real sense of support and connection during the Shake Up Max weekend. And we were gifted an anthology. And in the anthology, I was flipping through it, and it was so powerful and poignant. But there was one poem, a haiku called The Ode to the Vein. And I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was by. And the vein, who is so resilient, the vein who is so tired, bruised, torn apart, damaged, yet you have to stay so resilient. And that is how I can describe my fatigue, is that, and it's every part of you, to your veins, your fingernails, the peripheral neuropathy. Are you here, people? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
your numb fingers and toes. Yeah,
with you.
Exactly. And it's so, it's heartbreaking that we're going through this. And the spoons analogy then comes into it. Is the fatigue plays such an important role? Some days I wake up with 0 spoons, and it takes me 4 spoons just to get to the toilet, because I'm left with lifelong possible side effects, with damage to my nerves, my muscles. So it's really important that we understand, you know, where we are and why we're in this position, because we're fighting a horrible disease. Unfortunately, the people around us who love us and support us and are there for us, sometimes not there for us, sometimes cause us more grief, sometimes we're managing their emotions. You know, they're there for us, but unfortunately, they don't get it. They don't get it because they don't have it. And we don't want them to get it because we don't want them to get it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, don't want you to understand this.
Yeah, because if you
really
truly understood,
you
truly would understand if you had it, but I don't want you to get it, so you don't get it. So leave me alone, let me deal with it. And there are some days where I can't, you know, it's a thumbs down, I can't. And that's what I do with the kids. Thumbs down, leave mum alone.
Yeah.
Thumbs up, mum, I need a tub for food tech. Mum, I need some chocolate chips. Then you can ask me those things.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, you really paint a picture of like how that then affects everyone around you. Like, so it's not just your experience of it. I know for myself, if there was any fatigue going around, it just went slap bang into me. Like I'd be out with fatigue. And at the time, I remembered feeling like I guess I'm just really lazy. Like, maybe everyone else is doing this better than me. Maybe everyone else, and I would constantly like put myself down, and seeing those numbers has been, like, oh, far from alone in that. And I can see you nodding, Kaleb. Love to bring you in here. Can you tell us a little bit about your life when you were diagnosed, because you were diagnosed as a teenager?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed when I was 14, so a couple of days before my 15th birthday, on a school trip to Morocco, up a mountain.
Wow.
So, I mean, long story short, got to the top, got to the bottom. Felt more ill than I have ever felt in my entire life, but we'd go round and they'd say, do it about twice a day, and they'd say, rate yourself out of 10, say how you're feeling. If you're going lower than an 8, we're worried. I got down to a 6 on the final day, 2 hours before collapsing in the airport and going into a coma. I now realise my calibration of illness was not helpful, and I'm not quite sure what I thought a 0 would have been if I was not at a 0. But yeah, and then I was diagnosed with a brain tumour. From that, I had neurosurgeries when I was 14 and 15, and then a few years later, when I was 19, my tumour grew, and I had further treatment, this time proton beam therapy in the UK, and then went about 36 hours after I got the all clear, I moved to uni just after my 20th birthday and started uni, kind of adapting to all of the kind of new rhythms of life that brings, but also the inflections imposed on that by my, I suppose, different relationship with my own body, side effects from treatment, and how I related to other young people who didn't have that, either those life experiences or those perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, that's, people going into uni, that's usually the big thing, the big challenge that they're facing. Like, oh, life's really different. Oh, I have to like save up to be able to, buy food.
Yeah, my big challenge was getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning and clearing my flatmate's beer bottles out of the sink, so I could rinse my steroid syringe. So I'd be like, Heineken bottle, right, there's now enough space to rinse out the syringe and clean that and do that and take out the steroid and do the injection, and then and then I'll just get to work, and then about 4 hours later they get up, and about 4 hours later I go to bed. So
and kind of thinking about those differences, thinking about our social life pre, and I know for you would have been younger, but I'm thinking at that time, kind of social life in comparison to everyone else at uni. That was something that came up in the research as well. Have any of you avoided social events since being diagnosed? Yeah, I feel like it's really had an impact on social life. Yeah, okay. What would you say is kind of like the difference that you found like at uni at that time?
I think it's probably both. There's a bit of avoidance and a bit of obstacle, because I think, and I imagine the same goes for a lot of people here, I wanted to engage with peers, with family, with friends, with all of that, but sometimes there are impediments. Primarily for me, it was fatigue that just meant that was not possible. So I guess it restricted my things like fatigue, restricted those options, those possibilities, both of kind of like, whether it's kind of late night socializing or finding the right kind of crowd. So certainly at uni, it was that took its time. It was realizing, well, I can't. I mean, because I was at university during COVID, so you're stuck with the people you're in a house with, and as lovely as they were late night drinkers and smokers, and for several reasons that was not my thing. I thought, I got enough cancer, I don't want to smoke. So after realising that I needed to buy my own fire alarm, because they'd worked out if they propped the window open with a brick they could smoke in the kitchen, it's the kind of those the social distancing in the metaphorical sense of being on a different wavelength, having different life experiences. So I think it was sometimes, as well as fatigue, it was those different experiences, those different perspectives, or even things like sort of talking about, well, what what did you do? You took a gap year. What did you do in your gap year? And I know that's kind of a specific example, but I imagine it goes for a lot of people here, where people ask you about other areas of your life. And inevitably, and not always, and there's nothing doom and gloom about it, because there can be real bits of joy, but they're inflected and refracted by cancer, by experiences with cancer. So for me, the answer was, well, I moved to Manchester. Oh, that's great for cancer treatment. And kind of navigating those, the way sometimes people recoil. And it's not necessarily, I think for years I thought, is it because I'm dropping a kind of noxious, bombshell full of the most repulsive, silencing information? And actually, I think as time has gone on, realised, no, you're inviting people into that part of your life. And I know I certainly have put a tremendous amount of effort into crafting what are often quite traumatic episodes into neat narrative anecdotes that are easy to engage with. They've got kind of certain key touch points, but that's a huge amount of energy.
I was going to say,
and over time, I think it was, and it was time that all it took of finding a crowd who, if I left overnight to go to a medical appointment and then came back next evening, they would ask and they would engage, and I suppose that they recognised that it was that was part of the friendship, exchanging that information, recognising those experiences, which isn't to say it's all a kind of land of idyllic sunshine and happiness, but it was having. It means and meant a huge amount having that part of my life acknowledged by friends and finding people who could sit with that and who could engage in those discussions and who didn't recoil or in the or didn't do anything equivalent to, oh God, I'm sure we've all got umpteen anecdotes of this, but I still remember it's my go-to of thinking of people recoiling from these things, of a teacher I had at school where I wanted to go to had a talk about university entrance things, and I went, no, I can't make it because I'm going to be at a MRI. But if there are any notes, is it possible to get them? And he went, oh, is that because he was a really eloquent man, he prided himself on his alacrity of speech, and he went, is that because of your and just started gesticulating towards his head, and it was like he'd frozen, and I couldn't think of anything else to say other than brain tumour. He went, yes, that, yes.
Oh, wow, yes. Those moments where you just see someone drowning in front of you, right? And you're like, is it up to me to save you right now? Like, don't I have enough on my plate that I have to save you from your inarticulate moments? Thank you, Kaleb. Kerry, tell us about you. What was going on when you found out that you were ill?
Life was normal.
Yeah.
I was in the gym 5 nights a week. We'd come out of lockdown, things were normal. I was tired, but I've always been tired. I've been one of these people that for 10, 15 years before, I was tired. Mm-hmm. And it was so ridiculous. I one day went to the GP and said, could really do with some tranexamic acid. This period's gone on for 10 days. That's not normal. And they went, oh, okay, no problem. We'll give you some tablets. Can we just do some bloods? Yeah, fine, go on. And got a phone call the same day saying, can you come back in? And she's there and she's checking, and I'm going, why are you checking my lymph nodes? And she's like, oh, no, everything's fine. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm going, okay, that's fine. And she's like, I do want to do some more bloods, though. I was like, right, okay. And then the next thing I find is that I'm having some great big screwdriver things stuffed in the back of my pelvis, and they're doing a bone marrow biopsy, and I've got a consultant going, nah, you haven't got cancer, you're anemic, you need more green veg, and oh look, no, you've got multiple myeloma, and that's something which predominantly presents in black men over the age of 65. I was 34. And it was just a bombshell.
That language, of, oh, you're just anemic, eat some veg, to you've got cancer, and a cancer that's very rare.
And it's totally non-curable. It has no cure. They don't call it terminal because they can't give you a date, but it's a cancer where I'm still on chemotherapy, and I will be on chemotherapy until it comes back. I suppose you get used to the amount of tablets you take, and you think, yeah, it might rattle down the street at some point, but you get used to that. But going through actual chemo and then going through a stem cell transplant and then going through more chemo, you sit there and you think, is this ever going to end? And then they say, oh yeah, you've got to do a pregnancy test every month so we can release your tablets. I'm going, but I'm in menopause. Do you really need do you still want a pregnancy test? Which is just an insult every month.
Yeah.
But no, apparently pharmacy won't release the meds until you're confirmed not pregnant.
Yeah, and I mean, that is so much to be processing and taking in. Do you feel at any point that your mental health, how you were processing or handling all of this was considered by your team?
My CNS nurse, absolutely. She's been amazing. She's the one who's picked up that I've got PTSD. She's fantastic. She's got me into therapy with a psychiatrist because counsellors just weren't doing it for me. I couldn't be dealing with the whole cuddly, oh, I know how you feel, but you don't know, do you? You have no idea how I feel. And
sorry, I just heard someone else have that experience.
Yeah. And I still see it to this day, and we work through bits and pieces, and she's like, I think I might refer you to a trauma specialist. I'm like, that might be good, thanks. But again, I suffered with mental health before cancer. I was on antidepressants for a long time before that. What they've done now is they've upped it and added some more really fun drugs into play, which helps the situations. But I think mental health isn't taken into account enough when you are being diagnosed, when you're going through chemo, when you're having things explained to you which you're not listening to. You don't hear, you're listening but you're not hearing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get sent home with all this paperwork. And I remember that day I laid all this paperwork out on my bed, took a photograph of it, decided I was going to start an Instagram account and diarise every single day. That's pretty hard to look back on now. And did all that and went, okay, what are we doing tomorrow? Oh, I'm going to go and drive a tank. And that's what I did. I went and spent the day with, I've got family who own military vehicles. I went playing in a tank. So that's what I did.
You've got family that just owns a tank?
Yeah, can we
like
just
So you actually got in a tank?
Yeah, I got in a tank.
Can we do an event with the tank?
Yeah.
It's my cousin and her husband own the fastest land tank in the UK. So I went flying around in a tank for a day. Brilliant.
I mean, that is one way to kind of like uncertainty.
Absolutely, let's just go do it.
Get in a power tank.
Yeah, and I think that's, even from that day, when I look back at that day, and it seems like that's the way I've lived life since, that, sod it, I'm going to do it anyway. I want to do it, I'm going to go do it.
So it sounds like you, like from that day, sort of found a way that you wanted to sort of navigate that uncertainty and like, you know, it sounds like...
I think I just wanted to live, is the main thing. I spent a lot of time not living. I went in for a stem cell transplant. I had 4 hellish weeks of being locked in a room 24/7. I won't give you the gory details of it. And then there's recovery after that. There's more chemo after that. I'm diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and all sorts of other fun stuff to go with it. But I still sit there and say, it's going to come back. I might as well live while I can.
Thank you, Kerry. Louis. So Louis, what were you and your partner up to when cancer kind of came into your lives together?
Well, yeah, my wife, Amy, she'd had quite a significant career change and was training to become a midwife, and so was in the process of that. I was working full time. Yeah, it was a big difficult time.
Yeah. So kind of a little bit like there was a lot already, you were maybe at capacity.
Yeah, I mean, we were at the point in our lives, we were early 30s. we weren't engaged then. I don't think soon did get engaged. But, you know, thinking about what's the next chapter, you've kind of concluded the young, very young stage of your life, like kids, thinking a lot about career, hence the career change for Amy. For myself, thinking, you know, what do I want to pursue? You're at that point of laying the foundations for your future and trying to be a good architect of laying the right bricks down. Like what was said this morning, you know, that the age at which Shine focuses on is kind of the key economic driver age as well. And so those were kind of the things that probably a lot of people here were and are focused on, and that is difficult.
And what was your personal experience with cancer prior to Amy being diagnosed?
I unfortunately lost my mum to pancreatic cancer when I was, I'd actually just turned 22 by like a couple of weeks. And that was very difficult because that was a situation where she was diagnosed and she was stage 4, but I was told by the doctor she had at least a year left to live. And so my knee-jerk reaction was I didn't want to go back to university, I wanted to stay at home, but my mum was very much like, what good are you going to do here? You're not good at anything. She was like, you're not helping out much at the best of times, so I don't know what a year of you being here every day is going to achieve. But she persuaded me, and it made sense, and I was told at least a year, and then unfortunately she passed away after about 9 months, so then that was obviously a very extremely difficult time, but also difficult in the sense of thinking, maybe that was the wrong decision. Now with quite a lot of time having passed, I do think that was the right decision, and I was lucky in the sense of being able to come back regularly. I was a few hours away, it wasn't like a crazy distance. And then my dad's had cancer a few times. They found multiple tumours in his bowel, and he rang me up. I sort of just got over that a bit more and then went travelling, and I felt like cancer, the impact was starting to leave, but yeah, you don't really come to terms with losing somebody very close to you, obviously. And then they found multiple tumours in my dad's bowel, and I was like, okay, great, well, he's 100% dead as well, then this is not going to go very well. But then luckily he's been doing quite well, but so it's been a presence in my adult life as soon as I became an adult, really, for quite a long time.
And how did Amy find out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about it, but I feel that's her story a bit as well. But it was, she had a mass in her jaw, but she had really bad jaw ache and increasing bad headaches. And we weren't sure what it was, and went to the doctors, and people thought it was stress, potentially, and they sent her to a dentist as well, thought it was something there. The dentist couldn't see anything, and actually one doctor sort of did some tests and missed it and said that you're fine, and luckily a dentist that she went to go see recommended that she had another checkup with a different doctor, and they identified a mass, you know, through a camera. I think forget the name of it, but the camera up your nose, and they identified that, and so it almost went completely unnoticed and chalked up as dental issue, you know. And then she actually had a really big mass on her jaw, and then we had one of the worst parts that we had early on is we had to go to hospital because the pain was so much. We were like, this is really bad. We had an MRI scheduled, but it was too far in advance. So we went to A&E one night, and they agreed to let us go home just because Amy wanted to stay in her own bed, and we lived quite close to it. And that we got an email through saying that it was like a technical email, but it wasn't supposed to go to Amy, and it said it's malignant, and it had all of this extremely worrying language. Amy saw it come through and was just about to read it. We're literally just about to go to bed. It's probably 1 a.m. already then, and it's just to receive something like that. So we're just both devastated, trying to hold it together. Particularly, I think in the partner position, you feel that, you know, you have to try to do that as much as possible. It's kind of like the obvious area to contribute, it feels like. But yeah, so, and then we get to the hospital the next day and we see the consultant, and we're like, we got this email, like, what the hell is this all about? And then, yeah, it's very, very difficult, and obviously completely not right to have received that. That was an accident. But the consultant said, which was true and did reassure us, he said that, you know, it's very harsh language they use on these scans and points because they wanted things to move along quickly. But he said, we haven't had a biopsy, so we don't know anything. But yeah, that was where we really, I mean, things started getting really bad really quickly.
Yeah.
So we started to realise then.
Yeah. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about sort of identity, like being at uni or like kind of being a mom and like having your independent life, and you know, that thing of like, you know, kind of the tank being a way to kind of feel like you again, feel like you're living again. As a +1, which at Shine is, you know, any partner of someone with cancer, how does it impact you and your identity or your work life?
I think it's a very large impact. I think that's part of the challenge sometimes with cancer as well, as it kind of is a bit all-consuming to aspects of your life. And as I just explained, it's been a presence for me for quite a long time. So I think it's hard how much of a big thing it is. And I fully appreciate as a partner that is, you know, less so even as well. But from at least from my personal perspective, yeah, it's extremely significant. And similar to, as I said, with my mum, my knee-jerk reaction was that I didn't want to go back to university. My knee-jerk reaction was, well, I don't want to go back to work and it's not right. And particularly with my experience, I was like, I definitely shouldn't. But then as the dust settled a bit, I realised probably the best way I can actually help is by maintaining a decent income that would allow us to stay living where we are in London, which is relatively close to UCLH, where Amy's been having all of her treatment. And so you start to realise that, but you're not really in the headspace to be able to work properly and to try to juggle these points. So it does have a big impact. Time is extremely helpful with all of these things, and you do, speaking for myself at least, I found that, you know, I become more resilient over time with all of those situations. But yeah, you don't feel able to deal with it for the initial period, but also at other times it is that up and down aspect, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can hear in that, like, you know, that's the thing, is like you were both working and like kind of figuring out what's next together, and then there's a shift in that dynamic. And, you know, clearly you've gotten married since then, you know, there is, you know, real closeness. But how, you know, do you, from going from that kind of equal basis to now things being a little bit different, was that something that kind of took time as well?
It did, yeah. I mean, I think with Amy retraining to be a midwife, which I was very supportive of, it's another unfortunate truth of the situation that it's been so long that she had to defer now that has kind of concluded, and so she had 2 years and rather than doing the last. So she was a student, so, you know, she wasn't bringing in £1 million every month. Sort of. we weren't rolling in it.
She's sitting in the front.
Midwives aren't getting £1 million
Slacker. Just joking.
So with some regards, you know, on that, it wasn't a big the biggest difference was, you know, my mental headspace and Amy's as well, and how we could try to navigate things, and everyone trying to navigate life outside of cancer with such extreme cancer orientated situations going on. That was really different. So it was really different, but it did bring us a lot closer, I think, the whole process as well. Again, not that we weren't that close, but it honestly, it really did. It was a catalyst for us getting a lot closer, I would say, because part of that uncertainty, as I was mentioning, of, you know, where do you go next, what do you do? You're considering some quite significant things of, do we move abroad, quite career orientated, do you want to pursue these things, both of us, and we wanted different things, it was clear, in some places, and so we were starting to navigate that, but this helped us at least focus on what's important and streamlined, you know, our focus, which has been helpful. So thank you very much, Cancer. That's really nice.
Thank you for also sharing about your parents, because I think that's the thing, is none of this is happening in a vacuum, right? We all have experiences of other people around us that then inform, you know, either, you know, us or the people that love us, and, you know, really feed into that, like, and I think sometimes that can be something that is a bit overlooked by healthcare professionals. Sometimes they look at younger people and sort of go, oh, you have lots of people, right, you're fine, but not necessarily like what are the factors in there that you're dealing with. Ceinwen, can you tell me about the, you know, in terms of the research, like what's come out in kind of in terms of relationships? Because we
Yeah.
did ask quite a few questions, didn't we?
We did. Obviously, having been here all day, all the statistics have gone completely out of my head. So I can talk generally. I don't want to give a number because I don't want to pin myself down. But I think, one of the things, so this is a survey of 571 people from across the country, 20 to 49. And you can see really clearly in the data that people feel isolated, they feel lonely, they are less active socially, they've lost friends. I can't remember the exact stat, but it's pretty much equal, the number of people who said it brought them closer to their partner or it actually caused a lot of problems in their relationships. And I think both of those things are very common. And maybe it's caused problems and then you got closer, or maybe you got closer and then it caused problems. But I think it's one of those things that's so multifaceted, and actually everything that you guys have touched on, whether it's relationships, your children, your friends at uni, your partners, how you feel about yourself. It's never just one thing. It's a lot of different things, and you can see that really clearly in the data. And I think one of the things for us at Shine that's really important is trying to represent that experience for younger people, because it is really different. If you were 75, of course we don't want you to get cancer, but you're probably who you were going to be. If you're 30 and you get cancer, actually you're just figuring out who you are, and it throws a wrench in that plan. And somebody we spoke to a couple of years ago, I remember she said to me, I guess I'm just never going to be the person I thought I was going to be. And yeah, so many people are nodding, but that's really tough, because you do have in your mind a sense of where you're going. Most of us have a kind of like, oh, maybe I'll get married, or I might have kids, or I'll go to university, or I'll get this kind of job. And all of a sudden this massive wrench is thrown in, and it's really tough. So one of the things we really want to do with this research, I think, is find a way that we can say to people, it's not just one thing. It's not the treatment that you get over. It's actually derailing your entire life. And we need the right kind of support for younger people to be able to get them back on track and support them.
And sometimes, like, having some numbers, I always flip numbers around. I cannot be trusted with numbers. I used to work at a radio station, and I used to give the wrong station ID. I used to have to look at this massive poster and go 97.5. It's really nice to have like a couple of like approximate numbers when you're talking to people, to drop in like, I'm suffering with fatigue, but it's really common. Most people do. Actually, it's weird if you don't. But great for you if you don't have fatigue. I'm not jealous at all. Yeah. But like being able to say to a friend, actually, a lot of people have some tricky times with friends, and the numbers are, 75% or whatever it is, that actually having those can be a communication method with sometimes friends or family members that are, saying things like, well, why can't you just, forget about it, move on? Or, like, I don't know what you're going on about. And I think sometimes knowing that it isn't just you, that it is everybody that's going through this, and the numbers really bear that out, can be a form of, communicating that. And that's why the name Not Your Grandma's Cancer Show, because so many people, when I said that I had cancer, they went, oh, my grandma had that.
Yeah.
I was like, great, was she already a grandma? Yeah, was she retired?
But I think that's exactly what we want to do with this survey. So one of the stats I can remember is that 59% of people have felt isolated or lonely since their diagnosis. So that's 60%, 6 in 10 people who have felt really lonely because of their diagnosis, or felt like they were alone. And I felt that very much, like you stick out, you're different from your friends, you're different, your family doesn't know what to do with you. And so if you felt that way, you're not alone. And I think that's really important. And it's the same thing when we were talking about anxiety, right? I think it's 83%, don't quote me on that, but if 83% of people have experienced anxiety, when you're feeling anxious because of your cancer, you're not alone either. In fact, the people who aren't anxious are the weirdos. Sorry if there are some of you here, but it's more unusual than not to feel that way. And that kind of stuff I think is really important, because often, even with medical professionals who, they're working hard, they're trying to get us better, will kind of say, well, after a year, you'll be, everyone says, oh, you're going to bounce back. You're young, you'll bounce back. If you've got the bracelets that say bouncing back, we made those for you. But I think there's a misperception about actually what bouncing back means. Bouncing back might mean just like taking a shower that day,
Yeah. And when you're alone and you haven't seen anyone for a while and you haven't gotten out of your pajamas for a week, like you can feel so isolated with that, going, wow, like that is the only thing that I've done today is feed myself, And so now you have some stats to back yourself up on those days so that you know that you're not alone. But since you're all here, I would love some questions for our panel. Does anyone have any?
Oh, there's
we've got lovely Mark coming with a... yeah. We've got one there as well. Oh, lovely.
Hiya.
Hey.
Yeah, my name is Blessing. And thank you all for the sharing your stories. They are quite inspiring, and I really appreciated hearing from everyone. My question is, when I was diagnosed, from the time over a year, lots of friends I had whom I thought they were really friends, no one actually checked on me. So it made me realize that most of my friendship were just me keeping those friendships alive. So as a result of that, I said I wasn't going to check on anyone. If you don't check on me, I'm not going to check on you. If over a year, you never really checked on me to say, oh, hi, Blessing, it's been a long time or something like that. But now it's kind of, I'm feeling like, should I go back, to check on some of those people? Because some of them started getting back to me, but I'm kind of distant. When you say hi, Blessing, I sometimes ignore them because I felt like for over a year, none of you ever reached out to ask, how you doing, something like that. So sometimes it's a bit of having kind of, should I go back, to start up those relationships, or I should just let everyone be?
Thank you. That is a great question. So we don't have cameras on all of you. How many people in this room had a friend or family member that you thought was going to be there, but then they weren't?
Yes. Yeah. 2 hands up. Come on. Yeah.
Okay. This is such a tricky thing, isn't it? So for those of you listening on the podcast, the whole room put up their hands to that.
Some people too.
Yes. There were some very enthusiastic hands up. So panel, any thoughts for...
I can go straight into that. I experienced exactly the same thing. And for me, I absolutely would not go back. Because what's important in my life now is important in my life. If those people couldn't be bothered to check on me for 12 months, that's a cancer tourist to me. That's someone who's gone, oh, did you know my friend's got cancer? Or, oh, someone I went to school with 20 years ago, do you know they've got cancer? And it's just a gossip thing is what I found. All these people who we've talked about who've said, oh, I'll be there for you, anything you need. And okay, so where are you now? I love it when people say, oh, you're in remission, so you're cured? No, absolutely not. And they just fish for information. I work on the basis that if it had taken someone 12 months of not contacting me, they're not worth the time. For me personally, I would not go back to them.
And I love that you use the term cancer tourist, where they can use your situation to get sympathy and benefits for themselves. Oh yeah, you're not physically there, but my sister's got cancer, that's why I couldn't, come here, and, oh no, okay, let's give you this, let's give you that. So it's really interesting, that term. And I would say, this is where you really do find out, at a party everyone will turn up, but in a bad situation or in a tough situation, you really do see true colours. I would say for those that really do support you, take it. Take the support. I'm someone that was very independent, a people pleaser. I would show up 100%, put my all in to all situations. And like you, Blessing, I found that the same thing happened to me. When I stopped making the effort because I was too ill, I didn't hear from anybody. So then I realized that it's actually me. It's a one-sided relationship. Why am I putting in all of this effort and getting nothing in return? So you know what? I'm going to focus on myself. I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm going to be mindful, and I'm going to put myself first. This is why I'm here today. And this is why I chose to sit on this stage as well, because I want people to know that it is so important. If you do not look after yourself, nobody will. It's that gas mask thing that they tell you in the plane. Put your mask on first and then help others. Why do they tell you that? Because if you do not look after yourself and your mental health, then that's it. Nobody's going to do it for you. So it's so important to put yourself first, and there's a silver lining in every situation. As shitty as this is, we're in this room and we've got cancer, but there's so much good that can come out of it as well. And spreading the positivity and showing that you are there for yourself before anybody else is a huge, huge, huge improvement, and it's a huge benefit for yourself. So
I've got one more question to the audience. How many of you have made a really awesome friend who either popped out after you were diagnosed, they were in your life beforehand, or you met because of or you met here, yes. So really enthusiastic groups that, have met some amazing people afterwards. So yeah, there is that yin and yang, and friendships are so tough, navigating all of that. Love another question. Yes.
It's actually a sort of follow-on from Blessing's question, because I've got one of those friends. So she was one of the people I told quite early on about, so it was over 18 months ago when I was diagnosed, and I haven't heard a thing from her since. I'm seeing her in 2 weeks at an event we've both been invited to. Ooh. What am I going to say?
Okay. Wow. I'm just going to recap the details of that. So 15 months ago was the last time.
So I don't want to give too much details. I'm likely to be listening to this podcast, but you never know. So just after I was diagnosed, I let her know what was going on, because there was something coming up and I wouldn't be able to go to it because it was when I was due to have surgery. So I let her know, and she was like, "Oh, I love you. I'm so sorry to hear this. Anything I can do." Nada. Since that
you
was
had a declaration of love.
Love
assistance.
And assistance. This was January last year. January last year. Since then, I've not heard a single word from her. I've been through surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, a period when I was okay. Then the cancer returned. It's now stage 4. I'm currently back in chemo. Nada. And I don't know what I'm going to say when I see her.
Don't say anything. Just go like that.
Yeah. But the thing is, it does feel like a bit like that.
For those of you listening online, that is Fatima pulling out her fan.
It's quite a small event. There's only going to be about 10 of us, so it's not kind of like a big thing where it's partying. I can go fuck off and walk away, So it's a bit, But I genuinely don't know. I don't know how I'm going to react, and I don't know how I feel about it.
There's so many ways that you can go, isn't there?
Yeah.
Really thinking about how it is that you feel and what would be the ideal outcome.
I wonder if is there something to be said for, and I know it's kind of generic in some ways, but for seeing how you feel what you feel comfortable with on the day, because God knows, and I'm sure we all have thought about some of these things. I've dissected and psychopathologized so many family members because some of the responses have been so they've ranged from weird to shocking, really shocking. I mean, to kind of uncovering kind of bizarre family secrets that no one had talked about for years because they were terrified by mine and my parents' trauma or things like that. But I think there is something to be said for the kind of what I've found, I suppose, from the freedom of thinking, right, I'm going to think about it as much as is helpful beforehand, but neither am I, because I've slid unconsciously into trying to work out, well, why are they doing that? And how can I make that easier for them? And what conversational route do I pursue in order to manage this? And if they say that, what do I say to diffuse it? And how do I correct that? And you end up creating this kind of, I've ended up creating these sprawling webs of possibilities. And increasingly, and it's taken me years, but increasingly I really favour the approach of, I will see how I feel in the moment. If they say something that is stupid, then actually I'm entitled to say, I don't accept you saying that to me, or it really upset me that you didn't contact me for 2 months, for 18 months and all this time, but actually for making it, the strength of making it actually just as Fatima beautifully demonstrated with the with the fan, short, short and pithy. That you don't need to reason or you don't need to show your workings, as it were. You say what you need to say in that moment.
That's really good advice. Because I've been just sort of dissecting it in my head. It's like, what am I going to say? Yeah, it's really good advice.
But if any of us were around, I'm sure that we would all say something.
But it's like that thing where you think of something, probably afterwards you'll think, I really wish I'd said something else. It's like, when someone says something to you and you think of the sort of witty riposte you would like to have made 3 hours later.
We could do a crowdfunder for us all to take a coach there.
Amazing,
to stand with signs saying, shame on you.
We could meet South London in 2 weeks, just,
Shame on you on the fan.
Yes. She doesn't even deserve the word. Written on a fan. Oh, I love that. So we are at the end of our podcast today. But not quite the end, because we're going to stay around. There's some prizes coming. Ooh. Yes. So we're going to do an ending for the podcast. So what I would love, if you're okay with this, is a huge round of applause for everyone. But wait, one sec. And then all of us together saying, until next time, bye. Do you think that we can do this all together? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to stand up so we can all kind of see each other at the same time. All right. Let's hear it for our wonderful guests, Fatima, Kaleb, Kerry, Louis, and Ceinwen. And thank you to all of you for being a fabulous audience, and for all of you listening who are like, I want to be where they are. They sound like they're having a great time. They need to come along to Shine, right? Yes. So find our website, shinecancersupport.org, and you know what? You want to be a guest? You want to be on the podcast? Contact us. We're always looking for new topics and new guests, because this podcast really belongs to all of us. So until next time, bye.